So,
Yes. Whoop, there we go.
oh,
Okay.
beautiful. Yes. Record
So
this.
yeah. So we're
Mhm.
jumping on because we this is going to be a series of conversations that we're going to have, I think. That's something that is really important that we talk about, right?
Mhm.
As women in particular, but for men as well. Like for the like things are changing as far as building wealth and the ability to access options for that. And yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to be on the forefront of these kind of things and seeing a lot of things happening and changing and shifting. And it's such an important conversation to have.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm
Yes.
really glad that we're getting a chance to do this.
Yes.
And yeah, all right. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Well, today's been fun already because, of course, we had some technological things go on and, we're always figuring things out. But it was funny because Hannah and I were talking this morning beforehand and talking about, well, okay, so we were talking obviously about, hey, what do we want to discuss with you all today? Because today's just kind of a conversation that we wanted to have, at least begin the
And open
conversation
it.
kind
Yeah.
of open things up. And it was funny because just in the process of talking about that, it's almost like we figured out what we really want to talk about. And Hannah started riffing on just like her experiences, and she started talking about um some of her experiences and learning about wealth and
Yeah.
just interactions that she's had. And as I was listening to Hannah, I was kind of like, really, I think this is what needs to be shared. Like, I think people need to hear about this because, in the experience of which, again, we're here to talk to women and men, like everyone, we want everyone to participate. We want everyone to be included. And of course, as women, like we've had just some different experiences
Mhm.
but it certainly doesn't exclude anybody. So everyone probably has similar experiences. Maybe you've been judged or whatever, maybe you've been, excluded from certain opportunities or whatever. But I noticed in Hannah, you talking about what you were experiencing, like buying your car. And then you didn't even get to
Yeah.
experience tell me about your experience with the house. And I don't know if you want to share that now, but I was kind of curious and I was like, I
Definitely.
feel like listeners would want to hear about this. Like it's kind of interesting.
Well, it was just, yeah, like I had mentioned, like that we were talking about how we are focusing on women and men, but women in particular, because we've been kind of kept out of these conversations for so long, and not always from our own fault, right? Because we were mentioning how we couldn't even get our own bank account until like the 1970s without a man signing behind it or whatever, that kind of a thing, right? And that kind of led into my experiences of like buying cars on my own and different things like that, and then like um I had uh in like 2012-ish, I had purchased a new home. So this was after my first husband had passed away. So I'm a solo mom with my kiddos, sole provider, doing all the things. And I decided I wanted to put a pool in. We're in Texas, right? So what do you do in the summer? You try to get water or air conditioning, right? Because it's kind of hot. So
Yeah.
I had decided to put a pool in because that's something that my kids loved and all the things. And it was so interesting because I interviewed multiple pool companies, had them come give me quotes and all the things, and every single one of them got a variation of, so when are you going to ask your husband, or where's your husband? Or, like every time. And I finally it just got to the point of like, he's dead. What do you want me to do with that? Right? Because I was just so annoyed by this point in time because I was like, I know how to make a decision on my own. I'm an intelligent human being who's done my like research and all the things. And like it was really interesting to have that kind of like put on me, like I couldn't make a decision on my own. And and well, obviously it's fine to work in conjunction with a partner. I think there's a lot of wisdom there, but I didn't have that at the time. And they just assumed that I couldn't make a decision without that. And that was really like, oh, to me. Um, and there's been so many others, instances of that throughout my lifetime. And I think a lot of women can relate to that. And things are changing, right? Like we are this is a new frontier, right? Like there are new things happening. There are lots of different opportunities and access that was never available to us historically as women, or even just as people who did not come from generational wealth. And I think that's a really key thing. It's not just about women here, but obviously we're talking a lot to women, but we're also talking to men as well. But like we have access to things that were never there for us before.
Mhm.
And that's really exciting. So I
Yes.
don't know about you, Megan, if you have any other, things to share with that, like your
No, no, no,
experiences
like
around that.
yeah, no, I think that's really powerful what you shared, Hannah, because I think if there is anything I want to say is that I think we are coming into a different era where, in fact, I want to see how you said it because it was interesting, like just in, again, kind of like in these different wealth discussions we've been having, because What we want to actually, because after later today, we are going to be having another conversation around this in a little bit more specific to something that we found. Um, but I love how you said it's not about hustle, it's about access.
Yeah.
And so that goes right along with what you're talking about here, Hannah, and I've not really heard it talked about that way. And so I love how you kind of like brought that term out to me because I was like, it really is all about getting access to opportunities. You can do whatever you want with the opportunity. You don't have to do it. It's got to sit right for you. And, certainly we all make different wealth decisions in our lives, whether it's, you know, wealth and, going, purchasing a pool, or, going and getting into this new business or whatever. Like there's different wealth opportunities out there surrounding us. And
Mhm.
um, the biggest thing is getting access to that. It's not hustling more. I think we've all kind of gotten used to that hustle culture. Like it's been coined hustle culture. And,
Hmm.
you got to grind it out. You got to hustle for it, work really hard, which certainly work, is always part of the equation, but it's also really about access. And so I love how you
Yeah.
brought that out, Hannah. And so it is true. And we want to promote that for everybody. And I think, obviously we're kind of speaking to women, but it really is for everybody.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is to be able to have access to things. And so, anyway, that's kind of what we're talking about here today.
Access and yeah, and like positioning for it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter and being
Smart.
intelligent about seeing when an opportunity is there and moving on the opportunity when it is, time. Um, yeah, that whole hustle thing. I'm, not about that in so many areas of life. And I think as women are getting more into this and like we talk about like that feminine way of doing things, which there's a power to that, right?
Mhm.
And speaking of doing things femininely, I've got my little one here with me, right?
I
Because
love this. Welcome,
so
Willow, to the conversation. Welcome, Miss Willow.
right, I don't in the past it was like, you can't be seen that you're pregnant. You can't be seen that you have children. You can't like you are either a business person or like, it's not either or anymore. It's an and, right? And that also goes into wealth. Like it's not about working harder because the people who work the hardest are not the wealthiest out there.
No.
Yeah, right? Because the people who work the hardest, who break their back doing labor and things like that, or just not even physically. Sometimes it's like if you're a manager, if you're a manager and you're like managing all these different projects and things, but they're not necessarily the richest ones, right? And or building wealth even. And I think that is something that I've had to learn and shift as I hold on.
Yes.
Okay. Is that perspective. It's not about like, can I work more hours? Can I get a higher paying job? Can I get another degree that's going to like increase me? No, it's not about that for building wealth. It's fine for like working and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I've been in my career for over 20 years, right? And I love what I do. It's a great work. But as far as building wealth, building generational wealth, that's not where I'm building that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm looking at different opportunities that are smarter, that are wiser, that are, long term thinking, right?
Okay. I really like that. So, I mean, yeah, to kind of bring it all around then, what's working for you nowadays, Hannah? Because I do think
Yeah.
you're kind of highlighting a conversation that I think is happening with women and men world round, and I know particularly like, I know we're located here in the United States, but I know that women and men around the world are having the same conversation around,
Yeah.
how do we build wealth? Like, what is it we're looking for nowadays? Because there are so many
Yeah.
different things that are out there. Like, we have been taught to work harder and everything, but I mean, what are people looking for? Like, how is this conversation changing? Like, I mean, I think you're highlighting it right now.
Yeah. I think some of the things I'm hearing and in my own self personally as well is like I'm not looking for how do I get rich quick, right?
Yeah.
I'm asking more about like how do I build a life that allows me to expand, get rich quick, or work so hard that I get to a certain point. Because I think that was also the old way of doing things. Is like we work,
Yeah.
work, work for 40 years and then we retire and then we can have fun. And I
Mhm.
always thought that that didn't make sense, right?
Mhm.
But it
Mhm.
came home so clear to me, like crystal clear, when I lost my husband at he was 34 and I was 32. We didn't plan on that. And we certainly didn't have our 40 years to build our lives and then retire and live our good old days. So we need to like no one knows how much time we have left, right? So it's not about that. There's more about how do we um, build structures that support us in our life now so that we can enjoy this life now and we're thinking long term, right? So multiple streams of income. learning about different forms of income, like the new way, like cryptocurrency, like that is a thing. Investing in different opportunities, like these things are coming. Don't ignore it and pay attention. Like pay attention, get yourself positioned correctly, right? And I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but like I had the opportunity to invest in Bitcoin multiple times, and I did not because I didn't understand what it was, and I didn't have people around me who understood what it was, and I didn't do the necessary like education of myself on it, and I missed out in a big way, right? And I think a lot of people could say that, like you look at different big companies, Apple, Uber, Amazon, all these different like massive corporations that took off that people were like, I don't know if that's going to make, it was a new wave of something, right?
Yeah.
And so that is some of the different ways I'm looking at that is finding what's happening on the forefront and how can I position myself to create multiple streams of income, generational wealth, create stability without me having to work so hard. There are different
Mhm.
ways of doing that in a more of a beautifully passive way, make my money work for me while I'm holding my little one, talking to my friends, things like that. Like that is something I'm setting up and I'm so excited about it.
I love that. Well, I think you're doing it in such an authentic way, Hannah. Like, I mean, it is awesome. Like, I love watching your content and everything. Like, because, obviously, like last week. So it was really cool. I mean, just a side note for everybody. So, what Hannah was talking about with the Bitcoin story, like, it was actually really good. So, she has her table of icons group, and I got to go in and listen to it. And listening to the Bitcoin story was just crazy. I was like, oh, but what's funny is I think we can all kind of find ourselves in that story. And also too, what impressed me just in, listening, getting to listen to your story and also kind of the further discussion about wealth building and all that was just how you're doing it in a really authentic way. And I think in listening to you talk even right now, and hopefully, I wonder what questions people have. Um, I think people are looking to do things in a more authentic way. Like you said, kids are welcome. Like I think it's wonderful that Willow's joining us right now
Yeah.
because it's just, people
Yeah.
want to do things in a real way. Like we don't, I
We want our
think
families with us. We want our life to like, why
we
am I
want our life
trying
to be natural.
to like compartmentalize my life and my work, right? Like that's such a it's a hard thing to do. And I think a lot of us resonate with that. Like we have to code switch. I've not even heard that term before, but like you're
Oh,
one
tell
person
us
at
about
work,
that.
you're another person at
Yeah.
home, and and yet there's a little element of like I bring a different part of me to a different hat to my like my job than I do to my home because I'm more the caretaker, nurturer, mom at home, right? As opposed to like
Yeah.
I'm the professional at my job. But
Mhm.
and so there is a place for that. I understand that. And I can't bring my 3-year-old to my job in the hospital,
Sure.
right? It wouldn't work. But the business that I'm building to fulfill my soul's passion, my calling, and my reason for being here on this earth, I do get to have my family alongside with me on that. And that is a beautiful thing for me, right? I have brought her with me as I've traveled different places around the world for like conferences and things like that. She will be with me when I go on like, different speaking events and like hosting retreats and like signing books and things like that. Like my kids are going to be part of that and they see it already, right? And I want them there for that because
Mhm.
what an example that can be, right? But also, I'm also building in stability through other investments and things like that, which bring me so much peace and like a sense of safety as I think about like what I'm doing for me now, how I'm going to be able to resource my life, resource my business, because I have an element of like generosity and like giving back in my business. So that's part of what I'm bringing in with this different avenues of income coming in. And
Mhm.
I'm also building for my kids for their futures. Like I'm created trust funds for each one of my kids through these different avenues. And it, I don't even know how to like describe that. It makes me emotional almost, right? I can give leave something to my kids and to their kids. That's what I'm doing now. And I get that ability because I have learned and positioned myself correctly. And it's something that I'm so passionate about sharing with other women and men so they can create that for their families. Um, the ability to give our kids like a step up, a step ahead, like that's that's priceless.
Mm. Gosh, not sure that there's much more I can say on top of that, Hannah. That's already just gorgeous. So, um, I do love what you've been doing for your kids, and I think this is something that speaks to a lot of people. And we all want to set our families up well. We want to create that generational wealth. We really want to set up a structure that supports them, and I think you've been doing that really, really well. And it was kind of cool because I heard the concept of, the family bank in a tax
Hmm.
conference I went to earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I love that concept, essentially having the family bank that everybody, kind of works with, and it's there to support the family. And I think
Yes.
that's a neat way to structure your wealth and to, think about it because it's like, hey, we all kind of have our own little, bank and stuff, we're all managing our own wealth. And also too, I love how you have set up your kids, essentially a trust fund. And so it's again just restructuring that wealth and being a lot more conscious about it. And I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more kind of about that, how people might, consider doing that for their families, because I think generational wealth has been a term that's been coming up more lately, legacy wealth, generational. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to comment on that a little bit more because I have been seeing you do that more lately, especially with, that project that you and I are working on. Anyway, I don't know if you'd like to share just a little
Definitely.
bit more.
Yeah. I mean, oh, there's a couple different things you said there, but like the ability of family bank, like that was such a like, oh, like a light bulb moment for me as I thought about that. Because the ability to have a fund that the family can access so that you can get a loan or you can get like if you want to buy a house, you can access it through that. If you want at a very low interest rate and access it like through the family fund, like that how like as opposed like being able to buy a house without having to like put down, another, 7% on top of it, like that's a big deal, right? Or to get a car or like to go to school, things like that, and not be paying, crazy interest rates and in order to move ahead in life. Like that is what I'm building for my family, right? And that's what we have the opportunity to build through our family. And that and you guys like Megan mentioned this earlier, but we're going to have another we're having a call at 11 today, actually, with more details about these specific opportunities. And I so encourage you to come. Your family, your future, you deserve looking at this, right? It's not for everybody, but for those of you who are like visionary, who get it and you can like see it, like this is life changing. This is lineage changing, right? And it's worth it to take 30 minutes to like look at it and see and decide is this something that is for you or not. But it's you owe it to yourself to at least take a look, I think is how I would say, right? And I when I finally did that and I got it, I was like, oh, if I had missed that, like, ooh, that makes me a little bit like my makes my stomach hurt a little bit when I think about like if I had not paid attention because it did take me a little bit of time to look at it. But same thing with Bitcoin. I feel like this is my next opportunity to kind of look at that, right? Um, I feel like I missed part of that conversation, that question that you asked me. What was the rest of that?
No, no, you're good. I
Okay.
was maybe wanting some more thoughts on generational wealth, but I mean, again, you're giving me more ideas here too, because which I think is the fun of these conversations, right? We just kind of like bounce off of each other, and certainly I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what people are saying in the comments, like if anyone has questions, because also too, if anyone does want to join in that next conversation we're having at 11, please let us know in comments or just reach out to Hannah, or I.
And we can
Um,
drop the link in this chat as well, so you guys
yeah,
can join
yeah,
us,
we
and
can
we'll
do that.
yeah, we'll put it out there. But yes,
Mhm.
message us if you don't see it. But yeah, come and join us for that conversation.
Yeah. But also something that did come up just again in a lot of the exchanges we've been having, Hannah, that does keep coming up is that this is one of, especially 2026. I mean, like there's a huge wealth transfer happening right now.
Yeah,
And we're in the middle of it. Like, well, I don't know if we're in the middle, at the end, beginning, whatever, but there is a massive wealth transfer happening right now.
yeah,
And you want to be able to position yourself to get in with those different opportunities and to know how to take advantage of that.
yeah,
And so that is what we're talking about 11 will simply be one of those ways. And, so please, get yourself in there. But I think it is a very exciting time because of what's going on. There is a massive wealth transfer. People are getting access to better opportunities. And there are some pretty incredible ground floor opportunities happening right now.
hmm,
Um, and so, yeah, if you are looking to set up generational wealth, especially like Hannah's been doing here, please do join us at 11.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know if you want to comment a little bit more on that, Hannah, because I
I
know
do
we've been
think,
talking about
yeah. And
that.
you said it, like now is the time. And I actually think we're very much at the beginning of it. I don't think we're even in the middle of this
Yeah,
transfer. Like it is
right.
happening.
Mhm.
And we're still at the beginning of it, which is where you want to be,
Yeah,
right? Positioning is
yeah.
key. This is funny because what comes up to me, and I'm laughing about it because Megan, you're a surfer. I'm not a surfer. But for me, it's like there's like a wave on the horizon and it hasn't crested yet, but it's coming, right? And so if you and then you could do so much better on this because
No,
again,
I
you
love
being the
this. I'm like,
surfer.
you're
But like,
appealing to my surfer side. This is great.
right?
This is lighting me up.
Like for me, this is how it hits. It's like we need to get yourself positioned for that wave to like ride that wave as opposed to get crashed in that wave or have it miss you completely, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, because that's what's happening right now. Like it is coming, it is shifting, it is coming and it's massive. It's a tsunami on the horizon, right? But like how do you position yourself to ride that wave instead of get taken out by it or be missed by it completely?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't, yeah. Gosh. I love
now's
that.
the time.
And it's like now's the time to move. I know. And so I don't know that there's much more, to say about any of this other than it is about the positioning
Yeah.
and talking to the right people. And I think that's one of the most important things right now is just making sure you're getting in on the conversation and at least getting informed and knowing about what's going on.
Yeah.
But I love how you said it earlier, Hannah. I think it is about positioning. And so, um, yeah, so get in on the conversations, folks. Come listen in,
And
just
there's, like there are a lot of opportunities out there. I think we've talked about this too, right? And I mean, you do
Mhm.
you're very well versed in like different opportunities that are out there and you know try them. And I've done other things as well, right?
Mhm.
And the one we're talking about today is ridiculously amazing. And I so highly, encourage you slash, invite you guys to come and learn more at 11. But how do you figure out the ones to go in on, right? Like that is something that is, I think, what keeps women hesitating a little bit and men too, right? It's not just women. But I think because I know for myself, it was like, should I not? Because we're afraid of getting it wrong, right? And there is always this element of risk with anything that we're doing, obviously. And I have invested large sums of money in different things and lost it, right? And also vice versa. So it's like there's a give and take in all of it. There is always a risk. Like that is just life. But that is
Yeah.
just life, right? But I think the key thing with different looking at different opportunities and um, deciding where to move, because it is a decision you need to make, is really it's like you're discerning like is it about hype? Is there substance to it? Like, looking at the different like the structures behind it and like who's involved and like like what is happening in the market and things like that. That is what gives me like helps me to like my nervous system to relax when I'm taking a risk like that. Is when I start looking into the behind the scenes and start learning more about it. And like in the opportunity that we're talking about today, like that is what excites me so much about this opportunity and why I'm so behind it. And like, yeah, this is the one to go to because it checks all those boxes. Checks all those boxes that allow me to take that, you know, the risk that I'm okay with because I'm like, oh, okay, there's all these things here. Of course, life happens and we can never like guarantee anything, right? But that's life. It is part of what we're here for, right? But like there is something to be said about like doing some wise like research, yeah, research into things. And yeah, so anyway, I just a small thing, but like but it's there, right? And I think that's what holds us back sometimes is that like the what if.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have any other thoughts on that too, because again, I know you're well versed in making decisions on investing and things like that too.
Hmm. Right. So there's a lot of things that we could say about that. And I don't know, I kind of just keep coming back to the fact that it's just about who you talk to. And you always look at who's involved with things. And
Yeah.
so right now, I just think it really is about talking to the right people and just becoming aware. I think awareness is everything. And so over the years, um, just simply talking about wealth and just like starting to get people's ideas and where are they looking, where is the attention going? I think
Yeah.
that's been the biggest thing for me. And because certainly you're right. Like, I think people do get afraid of getting it wrong. And I know I have in the past. And that kept me out of conversations and that kept me from exploring new opportunities and also seeing what the heck am I capable of. And so getting to talk with people like you and other people who are just looking for opportunity and just looking to build and do better and to live a better life. And I think it kind of started there where I was like, okay, well, what kind of life do I want to live? Which that's a whole nother conversation, right? And I know like we're
Yes.
going down the rabbit hole and I
Yes.
know we got to keep it short and we probably should hop off soon, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
but
Well, let's
like
have more of these conversations because that's something to really
we're gonna have
explore, I
some more of
think.
those.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like you can't get it wrong. Like I think lead with curiosity and you'll find those opportunities. And so Anyway,
Yeah,
but
I
I don't know if
agree.
you have any closing thoughts, Hannah, because I'm like, gosh, I think we could talk all day about
I
this.
know, right?
So
Yeah.
we'll definitely have some more conversations.
And we're like I said, we're going to talk more in a little over an hour. So like you
Yep.
guys come on and join us. Again, it doesn't hurt to look and be curious and to be curious. Like honestly curious. I think that's actually where I encourage you to come is with an open mind and curiosity. Um, and then just see what lands for you, right? Because again, it's not for everybody, but for those who it is, it can change lives.
Yep.
So yeah, I love these conversations, Megan. This is one of the things that I love to talk about is like teaching like wealth energetics, wealth frequencies, like learning how to build that wealth, and the mindset of it. Cause it's not just about money, right? Like there's a
No.
lot more into it. And so I love sharing these things and teaching these things with women and men. So yeah, I love having these conversations and I like, let's keep doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We will. Well, I think that's a wrap then, Hannah. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we will drop the link here if you
Yep.
guys are interested in joining us at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
So wherever you guys are at, you can adjust it for your time zone, but a little over an hour. And then, yeah, be curious. Be curious for yourself. Be curious for your family, for your future, for yourself, right? All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
See you soon.